And indeed, today marks the end of an ordeal that plagued the nation since March 28th. On that day, 300 people set out on their rail journey from Abuja to Kaduna. However, the train was intercepted and attacked by terrorists, leading the Nigerian Railway Corporation to suspend that particular route. Sadia Mantu recalls the saga.
It's been 8 protracted months since the attack on the Kaduna-bound train from Abuja. On that fateful March 28th, 62 passengers were abducted. Although none of the victims died in captivity, 8 were killed during the attack on the train. Several victims were released periodically throughout the ordeal after their families paid ransoms, often up to 100 million naira per hostage to the terrorists that kept their loved ones captive. The first captives released included the MD of the Bank of Agriculture on April 6th, a pregnant woman on May 15th, 11 hostages on June 11th, 7 others on July 10th, 5 on August 2nd, and 4 more on August 19th. Negotiations were fraught with controversy, and on September 6th, terrorist negotiator Tukur Mamu was arrested in Cairo, Egypt, en route to Saudi Arabia, after a raid on his office and residence by men of the Department of State Services. He is accused of being party to an international terrorist network under the guise of journalism. This decision by DSS was condemned by popular Kaduna-based Islamic cleric Sheikh Gumi, who questions why Mamu has not been charged to court. It is believed that the negotiations became fractious when the terrorists allegedly reneged on a proposed swap agreement with the federal government, as they forcefully freed their fellow jihadists from the Kuje prison on July 6th. The remaining 23 train victims were finally released after terse negotiations with the federal government. The victims, their families, the government, and the nation at large are relieved that an end to this national horror has come, as the government and security agencies continue to ramp up humanitarian operations and rid the country of the terrorists bedeviling it. Sadia Mantu, Arise News.
Well, let's now talk to Usman Yusuf, who is the press secretary to the Chief of Defense Staff Action Committee. Professor Usman Yusuf, thank you so much for joining us on the news tonight. What more can you tell us about this 7-man presidential committee assembled by the Chief of Defense Staff and how they were able to achieve this feat?
Right, so today is not about myself, the committee, or anybody else, but there's 23 Nigerians that have been in captivity for 6 months and 6 days, and their families. This is a very happy day for all of us and the nation. We're bringing an end to this tragedy. So it's not about us or the committee, and I will commend everybody that played a significant role in this and to bring this tragedy to closure. We were assembled just a day after the tragedy. It happened on the 28th, and we were assembled on the 29th. The committee is composed of 7 honorable men, honorable Nigerians, people that have given their all in the service of this nation. And they came in again to do the same. Volunteers in many ways. We got into this to do what we need to do. Security, we've said it, even the president said it, is not the prerogative of the government or the military alone. Everybody must come in. And that's why we all needed to come in. And the success we achieved today is not a single agency. But I've said it. The Chief of Defense Staff assembled this committee, empowered this committee, guided this committee, shepherded through, had all our frustrations. And all along he would tell us, gentlemen, remain focused. Your job is to see how you can get these fellow men and women out of this 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 captivity they are in. If you have a hostage situation, the military or the government has three options: send in the military and do what they do best and incur a lot of casualties, pay ransom, do nothing, or exchange prisoners. Well, for this government and for this military going into to rescue them from the outside, knowing there could be 60% casualty, was honestly not an option. So the military was doing its part, we were doing our part, the government is doing its part, other security agencies are doing their part, traditional rulers, we are talking clerics, we are talking elders, everybody came in to achieve what has been achieved today. It's no one person's that will come and say, oh, I did it all alone. And that is how it should be. My involvement in this committee over the last 6 months has honestly given me a better realization of how government works and how the military and all the challenges they are facing. All the challenges they are facing.
Right.
Without the military, I say this, yeah.
Yeah, very commendable work that you have done in collaboration with the armed forces. You talk about options that were on the table that were, that you could, go with. Was a ransom part of the options that you had on the table? Because we really want to know how you were able to achieve this release of the remaining 23 abductees. What were the options?
Good. And the whole idea is there's a lot more you can do than just paying ransom. From the outset, this committee representing the government, we were very firm that we are not going to recommend to our principal that the government pay ransom. So you're going to pay ransom to a set of people that killed 9 people, that destroyed the rail track, that abducted 63 people. For us as a committee, this wasn't an option that we were going to recommend to government. We remained firm and refused to entertain that option. There are many options you can do. We have, over the course of time, developed network to get to them. So it's all about reaching out to them. In the beginning, they say they don't trust the government, they don't trust DSS, they don't trust the military, they don't trust everybody, they don't trust us, the committee. Then we ask, who do you trust? You say, God Almighty. Then that's a good place for us to start. We also trust God Almighty. So there are many ways you can reach out to people, to bring them, to get to them. And they are humans too. We are able to do that, and I can assure you that government did not pay ransom. And if government was going to pay ransom, we said we were going to opt out. And the families, we were with the families all along. You can imagine the frustrations of the families all along. We bore all their anger, we hugged them, we laughed with them, we shed a tear or two with them. But today is for them and for these 23 long-suffering Nigerians. It's not about us, it's not about the committee. I broke my cover. There are 6 honorable men in this committee that you will never know who they are. Right. But the nation needs to know what this government has been doing from the outset.
Okay.
People have been saying, oh, the government has not been doing anything.
Yeah,
Right.
Professor Usman, we do apologize to our viewers for the audio quality we've been getting from this conversation, but it seems to have stabilized. And if you can, as briefly as you can, tell us the state of these hostages that were released today. Are they reunited with their families? And does the work of this committee end here? Or do you also provide psychosocial support for the hostages that have been released?
Right. So as you can imagine, 6 months and 6 days in the forest, exposed to the elements, will do wonders to a human being. So they are not in good shape, and they are being taken care of in a military facility as we speak. And they are being clothed, they are being fed, so they are taken care of. unlike what you see in the previous releases, where the captives were just thrown before the cameras in the clothes they're in. No, we are not going to expose them to such indignity. They're in the hospital, they've spoken to their family members, they are taken care of by doctors and nurses and all medical care, they have been fed, they have been clothed. And we are not going to show any camera on them, we let them to their families quietly. They've been through a lot, and I pray for all Nigerians to please respect their privacy and the privacy of their families. Is our job done? No, our deed is not done. Right from the outset, the committee has said the complete release of all the passengers is not the end of our job. Our job is to see how we can contribute in bringing peace to this country, whichever way we can, and we'll continue to do our part.
All right.
Today is for the families of this 23.
Yes, indeed.
23 Nigerians released today.
Thank you so much for your work, and it is highly appreciated. Nigerians are happy that this remaining 23 are back home with their families. Professor Usman Yusuf, Secretary, Chief of Defense Staff Action Committee, thank you very much for joining us.